Peace and blessings to you, fellow traveler. Today, I want to speak with you about something both sacred and unsettling. You may have seen the headlines. Pope Francis reveals a shocking truth about Jesus before dying. It struck the world like lightning, an echo that whispered not scandal but urgency, truth, mortality. Now, I won't dwell on spectacle. That's not why you came here, is it? You're here because a part of your heart is searching for truth, for meaning, for stillness in a world addicted to noise. So let me tell you a story, not of the Pope, nor just of Jesus, but of us, you and me, of life and the silence between breaths. When I first entered the monastery, I carried with me the weight of the world, ambitions, fears, desires dressed as dreams. I thought that by giving up the world, I would find peace. But peace is not found. It is uncovered, layer by layer, like peeling an onion, tears and all. One morning, I sat in stillness before dawn, the way monks do, facing east as the sky began to glow. My teacher, an elderly monk with a voice like falling leaves, placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "Do not seek enlightenment like it's a prize. Seek it like a lost friend, gently, lovingly, quietly." And so, I began to listen, not just to the wind in the bamboo or the song of birds, but to the thoughts I had tried to outrun. Let me ask you, when was the last time you truly sat with yourself, not scrolled, not multitasked, not escaped, but sat in sacred stillness and asked, "Who am I underneath it all?" That is where this story begins. Now, about the Pope's revelation. What moved me was not the headline, but the humanity behind it. Imagine a man who has spent his entire life in service of others, standing at the edge of eternity, choosing to speak not as a pontiff, but as a pilgrim. He said, "Jesus showed us not how to be powerful, but how to be present, not how to rule, but how to surrender." That hit me deeply, because surrender is the lesson of my life. We monks are not masters. We are students of surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It is strength in its most sacred form. It is choosing to trust the river even when we do not know where it flows. And isn't that the journey we're all on? Trying to control everything, yet still feeling like something is missing. The truth is, what you're searching for cannot be chased. It can only be received, in quiet, in stillness, in surrender. When I first began to let go of control, I realized how tightly I had been clenching my identity, my past, even my pain. We wear suffering like armor, and then wonder why love cannot touch us. So I ask you now gently, what are you clinging to that is no longer serving you? Maybe it's an old story about who you should have been. Maybe it's shame or guilt or fear of not being enough. My friend, let me tell you something with all the humility of my heart. You are already enough. You were born enough. Life is not a ladder to climb. It's a garden to tend. And in gardens, things must die for new things to bloom. Stay with me. We've only just begun this journey. In the next part of our time together, I'll share the story of the old monk who lost everything, only to discover the greatest treasure of all. It's a story that changed my life, and I believe it will change yours. But first, take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Thank you for staying with me. In this fast world, your attention is one of the rarest gifts you can offer. And yet, the greatest offering you can make isn't to me, it's to yourself. The willingness to be here, to listen, to remember who you really are beneath all the roles and noise. As I promised, let me tell you the story of the old monk, a man I met in the far hills of Bhutan, where clouds dance along the mountaintops and silence is deeper than words. He was Once a wealthy merchant, respected, well-dressed, clever. But life, in its mysterious compassion, took everything from him: his fortune, his family, his status. He arrived at the monastery with nothing but a broken heart and a question. Why me? We took him in, not because he was broken, but because he was ready. For years, he swept the temple steps in silence. He never complained, never asked for more. One day, I asked him, "Do you miss the life you once had?" He smiled, eyes like still water, and replied, "That life was loud. This one is true. That stayed with me." So many of us chase a life of volume, more noise, more possessions, more attention. But the soul doesn't grow in noise. It grows in quiet. You may feel like life has taken something from you: a dream, a relationship, an identity. And it's tempting to think you've been punished. But what if, like the old monk, life isn't punishing you? It's purifying you, stripping away everything that isn't really you. When the Pope spoke about Jesus not as a king of this world, but as a servant of truth, it reminded me that the highest power lies in humility, in living not to be remembered, but to be real. What are you living for? So often we live like we have all the time in the world. But time is not promised. Death is not something to fear. It is something to prepare for. Not by hiding, but by living so fully, so sincerely, that when death does come, it finds nothing left to take. A true monk dies before he dies, meaning he lets go of everything he is not, so he can finally live as who he truly is. Now, you don't need to shave your head or wear robes to live this way. No, you only need to begin noticing. Notice when your ego wants to defend. Notice when your heart wants to open. Notice when silence feels scary. And stay anyway. Because in silence, God speaks. In stillness, the truth of your life rises. Not like a thunderclap, but like dawn. Soft, certain, undeniable. Let me share a practice with you, one that changed my life. Each morning, before the sun rises, I sit in stillness and ask just 3 questions. What am I grateful for that I didn't notice yesterday? What is one thing I can let go of today? How can I serve without being seen? Try this tomorrow. Write the answers. Feel them. Live them. You will begin to notice that your life is not a series of to-do lists and unfinished tasks. It's a sacred thread of moments, each one offering a chance to come home to yourself. And when you live like that, gratefully, honestly, quietly, you no longer chase purpose. You become it. Let this moment be your tea. Hold it gently. Sip it slowly. Taste the simplicity. Because I promise you, when your last breath comes, it won't be your achievements you remember. It will be these tiny, sacred moments of presence. I once asked my teacher, "What does it mean to live a holy life?" He didn't answer with words. He closed his eyes, placed a hand on his heart, and smiled. That was the answer. To live holy is to live wholly, with your heart open, with your presence complete. So now I ask you, what are you really living for? Not in theory, but in truth? Let that question sit in your soul like a seed. In the next part of this journey, I'll share a lesson on ego, how it hides itself in the most subtle ways, and how the gentlest path to power is to release the need to be powerful at all. But for now, breathe with me. Inhale peace. Exhale striving. You are already on the path. Welcome back, my dear friend. If you are still here, then you are ready to go even deeper. This is the part most people avoid, not because it is difficult, but because it is honest. Let us speak now of the ego, not to fight it, but to understand it. Because what we understand, we no longer fear. The ego is not your enemy. It is a frightened child wearing armor. It says, "Look at me, praise me, validate me," because it is terrified of being forgotten. When I was younger in my path, I believed ego was something to destroy. I tried to beat it down with silence, with fasting, with harshness. But the more I resisted it, the louder it became. Until one day, a moment of clarity arrived like thunder. I was sweeping leaves outside the meditation hall. I had been asked to do it in silence, but I noticed something. As I swept, I imagined someone watching. I imagined them saying, "Look how devoted he is." I caught myself creating an audience in my mind, and I realized ego is subtle. It doesn't just want applause. Sometimes it wants to appear humble so it can be admired for humility. That realization changed me. Ego isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers in spiritual language. Be better than others at being modest. Be the wisest one in the room. Be the most awakened. Do you see? It wears a mask of virtue, but its root is still fear. So what do? We don't kill the ego. We cradle it like a crying child. We say, "I see you, but you don't drive this life anymore." And then we let the soul speak louder. The soul doesn't need to prove. It doesn't need to win. It simply is open, compassionate, still. I want to share another story with you. A lesson that came not from a scripture, but from a child. There was a young boy who visited our monastery with his mother. She had come seeking answers. Her life was unraveling, her marriage lost, her spirit dimmed. As she cried quietly during our time together, the boy reached up and wiped a tear from her cheek with the edge of his sleeve. He whispered, "Don't worry, Mama. We can just start over. Just start over. Simple, profound, no ego, only love." How many of us need to hear that? Not from a guru, not from a book, but from within. You can just start over. You are not the sum of your mistakes. You are the miracle that keeps rising in spite of them. So today, as you listen to my words, I offer this truth. Let go of the need to appear perfect. Let go of the pressure to be more than what you are. Let your soul breathe. There is power in surrender. Not surrender as in defeat, but surrender as in trust. Letting go of the illusion of control so that something greater, call it God, the why, universe grace, can move through you. In the monastery, we live by a rhythm. We wake before dawn. We sit in silence. We chant not to be heard, but to be emptied. We eat in mindfulness. We walk slowly. Not because we are slow, but because we are not in a hurry to arrive. Life is not something to conquer. It is something to commune with. One of my elders used to say, "When you stop trying to impress the world begins to reveal its deeper self to you." And that is what I want for you. Not a life of ambition alone, but a life of alignment. Are your values aligned with how you live? Are your words aligned with your heart? Are your days aligned with your soul's whisper? These are the questions that change everything, not instantly, but gradually, like the tide changing the shape of the shore. You do not need to rush. The lotus does not bloom in haste. So now I invite you to take this with you. The next time your ego rises, when you want to argue, compare, compete, pause. Place your hand on your heart and say, "I am safe without proving anything." And see what changes. You are more than your performance. You are the space beneath the waves. You are the stillness the world is aching to remember. Before we move to our final part together, I want to thank you for your presence. You've walked a long way with me today, not in distance, but in depth. In our final conversation, I will share the greatest lesson I've ever received. One that came not from scriptures nor from teachers, but from sitting quietly with death itself. It is a message of liberation, a message of light, a message for the part of you that still wonders, am I really living the life I was meant to live? Stay with me. We have arrived, dear one. If you are still here, then I bow to your spirit. You have not only listened, you have stayed. And in a world of endless distractions, to stay is a sacred act. As I promised, I wish to end our time together by sharing the greatest lesson I've ever received. But before I tell you the story, I ask you to take one more breath. Inhale gently, and exhale everything that no longer serves you. Let it fall away like the last leaf in autumn. Years ago, before I took final vows, I was asked to spend 3 days alone in what we call the Room of Returning. It is a bare stone chamber deep in the earth, lit only by a small skylight. No books, no clocks, no food. Just a simple mat, a bowl of water, and the silence. It is meant to simulate death, not to frighten you, but to teach you how to live. In the beginning, my mind fought. It screamed, rattled, begged. It clung to identity, to memory, to distraction. But by the second day, something shifted. My mind stopped searching. It started listening, and that is when it happened. I felt something within me, something I had carried all my life, begin to dissolve. It wasn't fear. It was the illusion of separation. In that silence, I saw my life like a single candle flame, beautiful, flickering, impermanent, and I wept. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming peace that comes when you realize you are not your name, not your job, not your pain. You are awareness itself. You are love before it was shaped into language. The voice I heard wasn't external. It was the deepest part of me whispering, there is nothing to become. There is only something to remember. And so, my friend, I share that with you now. You don't need to become anything other than what you already are. Whole, worthy, luminous. All. The striving, all the proving, all the comparison, it has exhausted you because it is not your true path. The Pope's last words, as reported, reflected a man who had seen everything and finally came home to one truth. Jesus showed us not how to avoid death, but how to love so deeply that even death cannot erase us. That is the lesson. Love deeply, live simply, serve quietly. Because the moments you think don't matter, the silent kindness, the unseen prayer, the unspoken forgiveness, these are the threads that stitch heaven into earth. And so now, as we end, I offer you not advice, but a blessing. May you walk gently upon the earth. May your days be touched by deep presence. May your heart remember its true name. And may death find you already fully alive. This life, your life, is the sacred scripture. Write it with honesty. Live it with reverence. And when the time comes to return this body to the earth, may you do so not with regret, but with gratitude, because you lived awake. Before I go, I ask only this. If this time together has stirred something in you, a memory of who you really are, then carry it into your world. Let your presence be your prayer. Let your life be your sermon. And let love always have the final word. I will meet you again, in stillness, in silence, in the space between breaths. Until then, walk in peace.